They say clarity is a gift reserved for the quiet ones, not the loud, not the restless, not the ones chasing noise for meaning, but the ones who dare to be still, who dare to turn inward, who understand that the loudest truth is often whispered, and that the greatest breakthroughs are born in silence, not in sound. Look around you. The world is faster than it's ever been. 1,000 voices pulling you in 1,000 directions. Algorithms dictating your attention. Notifications hijacking your peace. Opinions flooding your mind until you forget your own. And through it all, one ancient truth remains unchanged. A man cannot walk a path he cannot see. Confucius once said, "When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps." But how do you take steps forward if you're blinded by confusion? How do you walk a righteous path when your mind is clouded with fog and your heart is screaming for something real? The answer is not out there. It is within. Because the path is not some grand highway that appears at your feet. It is a quiet trail that begins the moment you still your thoughts. When the mind is still, the noise stops echoing. The fear loses its grip. The pressure fades like morning mist, and what's left is you. You, without pretense. You, without distraction. You, without the masks you've worn for too long. Still, present, awake. That is where the journey begins. It does not start with goals scribbled on whiteboards or with frantic hustle before dawn. It starts with reflection, with questions asked in the dark. Questions like, who am I truly? What do I seek? What have I allowed to pull me away from myself? In that stillness, the fog lifts. In that stillness, the path becomes visible. Not because the world changes, but because you finally see it through unclouded eyes. The greatest wisdom has always come from those who withdrew from the noise. The monks on the mountains, the sages in the gardens, the thinkers who dared to be alone long enough to understand. Lincoln walked alone in agony before he spoke unity into a divided nation. Einstein sat quietly with thoughts that bent the universe. Disney stared at empty plots of land and saw castles. They weren't following maps, they were following clarity. And clarity cannot be found in chaos. Clarity requires stillness, and stillness is not inaction. It is alignment. Alignment between what you think, what you feel, and what you know to be true beneath the clutter. Stillness is where purpose sharpens. Stillness is where you remember. You were not born to chase a million things. You were born to do the one thing that only you can do, and that one thing, it requires your whole being, not the scattered version of you, not the distracted you, not the you addicted to comparison and approval, but the clear you, the aligned you, the powerful you. You see, most people are not lost because the world is confusing. They are lost because they have abandoned their own compass. They seek direction in every voice but their own. They've traded their focus for stimulation, their values for validation, their souls whisper for society's shout. But you, if you are hearing this, something inside you is waking up, something ancient, something bold. It is the voice that says enough. Enough noise, enough fear, enough chasing what does not fulfill. Because the truth is this, your life does not change when you hustle harder in confusion. It changes when you pause and listen. It changes when you clear the rubble from your mind. When you stop treating business like a badge of honor. When you stop performing for applause you don't even care about. Only then does the path appear. Not because it was hidden, but because you finally stopped running in circles long enough to see it. And when the path is clear, movement becomes powerful, not rushed, not forced, but intentional. There is a rhythm to real success. It moves like water, calm but strong. It flows around obstacles. It doesn't fight, unless it must. It knows where it's going because it flows from a source deeper than want. It flows from knowing that what you're doing matters, knowing that your vision is aligned with your truth, knowing that you don't need to chase what is meant for you. You need only become the person ready to receive it. And you cannot become that person through noise. You become them through clarity, through focus, through stillness. You become them by pruning distractions like a gardener trims a tree. You become them by choosing depth over speed, by choosing solitude over approval, by choosing truth, even when it's hard, because what's easy is rarely meaningful, and what's meaningful is rarely easy. But the man with a clear path does not need easy. He needs direction. He does not wake up searching for motivation. He wakes up anchored in conviction. And conviction is born from stillness, from sitting with your fear until it loses its teeth, from facing the parts of yourself you've tried to outrun, from realizing that the only thing ever blocking your way was you. Most people fear stillness because it reveals the truth, and truth is uncomfortable. Truth demands action. It demands change. It demands that you let go of the lies you've told yourself to stay small. But hear this, the man who dares to be honest with himself, brutally, relentlessly honest, is the most powerful man alive. Because once you know who you are, no one can tell you otherwise. Once you know your purpose, no setback can shake you. Once you've seen your path with clear eyes, the storms of the world become background noise. And so, clarity becomes armor. Not the kind that hides your vulnerability, but the kind that makes you unshakable. Because you are no longer moved by trends, no longer manipulated by fear, no longer seduced by comfort. You are moved by mission, and mission is not found in the shallow waters of distraction. It is found in the deep ocean of self-discovery. It is forged in silence, shaped by pain, and strengthened by faith. Faith, not in something out there, but in the man you are becoming. When you walk with clarity, every step has weight. You don't run, you advance. You don't react, you respond. You don't follow, you lead. Because your direction is not borrowed. It is born from within, and that kind of direction cannot be stolen. It cannot be shaken. It cannot be lost in the noise of the world, because it was never built from it. Confucius taught that he who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. Not the man who wins battles outside, but the one who masters the battlefield within. And that battlefield is real. It is the war between impulse and intention, between reaction and reflection, between the man you've been and the man you are called to become. It is easy to stay the same. It is easy to keep running. It is easy to numb yourself with goals that don't matter, habits that don't serve, and people who don't see you. But easy is not your path. You were not built for mediocrity. You were not born to blend in. You were born to awaken, to rise, to shed what no longer fits, to stand in the full authority of your truth and walk toward what matters. Even if your legs shake as you begin, because that trembling, that's not weakness. It's the echo of transformation. And yes, it will hurt. Yes, you will be misunderstood. Yes, you will lose people, habits, and comforts you once thought you needed. But in that loss, you will find yourself, and what you find will be greater than anything you leave behind. Because when the mind is still and the heart is clear, you begin to hear a different voice. Not the voice of fear, not the voice of culture, but the voice of purpose. That voice says, "This is who you are." That voice says, "You don't need to chase anything. You need only build." That voice says, "You are ready. Ready to build discipline, not out of punishment, but out of devotion. Ready to build focus, not out of urgency, but out of reverence. Ready to walk with direction, not out of desperation, but out of vision. Discipline, then, is not about rigidity. It is not cold or mechanical. It is sacred. It is the daily ritual of aligning with your truth. It is waking up when no one is watching. It is showing up when it would be easier to hide. It is choosing consistency over convenience, because clarity demands consistency, purpose demands persistence, and greatness demands sacrifice. not the sacrifice of your joy, but the sacrifice of your lesser self. The version of you that would rather scroll than reflect. The version of you that avoids discomfort. The version of you that keeps waiting for permission to begin. But you don't need permission. You need courage. The courage to walk alone when the path first appears. The courage to fail publicly while staying true privately. The courage to build something real in a world that worships appearances. Because the path will not be lit with neon lights. It will be lit with the fire of your own intention. Every step you take in clarity adds fuel to that flame. Every moment of stillness strengthens your vision. Every act of devotion becomes a prayer for who you are becoming. And eventually, the path that felt invisible becomes undeniable. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. You learn to walk by faith, not by sight. To move forward without needing applause. To trust yourself, even when the world said otherwise. And now, you are not just walking a path. You are the path. You are the example. You are the living proof that clarity creates power, and power creates impact. Not noise, not hype, not gimmicks, but legacy. Legacy is not built in a moment. It is built in the dark, in the quiet, in the repetition, in the sacred spaces where no one claps and no one sees. It is built in the still mornings when your alarm feels like an enemy, but your purpose feels like a promise. It is built in the late nights when your body is tired but your spirit is on fire. It is built in the decisions you make when no one will ever know you made them. That is where the great ones are made. That is where you are being made. Do not wait for your environment to align. Do not wait for your bank account to look like your vision board. Do not wait for the perfect conditions, because there is no perfect season. The season is now. The season is when you decide to begin. The season is when you take your clarity and carve it into action. And the action does not need to be dramatic. It needs to be deliberate, focused, disciplined. Because direction without discipline is just a wish. But when clarity meets action, your path becomes real. Not because the road gets easier, but because you become undeniable. Like Lincoln, who failed in business, lost elections, and battled depression, but kept walking. Like Edison, who failed 10,000 times before a single light came on, but kept experimenting. Like Confucius himself, who said, "It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop." That's not just philosophy. That's a mandate. That's a call to build, even when the bricks are heavy and the world is silent. That's a call to believe, even when belief feels foolish. That's a call to rise again and again until your life reflects the clarity you carry. Because clarity is not a luxury. It's not a motivational mood or a weekend retreat. It is a responsibility. And once you see the path, you cannot unsee it. You can try to ignore it. You can drown it in distraction. You can bury it under excuses. But the truth will always wait for you. Patient, unmoving. Like a mountain that knows you'll return when you're ready to climb. And when you do, when you begin to climb with vision in your mind and peace in your chest, everything shifts. You stop asking, "How long will it take?" And you start asking, "How deeply can I commit?" You stop needing validation, and you start moving from internal conviction. And that shift, that sacred shift, is where power lives. Not the power that manipulates, dominates, or impresses, but the power that moves people without saying a word, the power that builds something eternal. This is how empires are built. Not from noise, but from knowing. Not from frenzy, but from focus. Not from fame, but from fire. The fire that burns inside the one who has seen the truth and decided never to look away again. So ask yourself, have you looked away? Have you settled for speed over substance? Have you traded depth for distraction? Have you forgotten what you came here to do? Then return. Return to the stillness. Return to the silence. Return to the truth, because the truth is still waiting, and it will wait as long as it must. But you don't have forever. Time is your most precious currency, and every moment spent in confusion is a moment lost. So if your mind is clouded, quiet it. If your heart is restless, listen to it. If your vision is blurred, clear it through action. You are not here to drift. You are here to drive. You are here to forge. You are here to lead. And leadership begins not when others follow, but when you follow your own deepest knowing. That is the beginning of mastery, not of others, not of outcomes, but of self. And mastery begins when the war inside ends. When you stop fighting for the version of you that's fading, and start fighting for the version that's emerging, the one who walks with purpose, the one who speaks with conviction, the one who no longer seeks permission. Because clarity has become his compass. And once you walk like that, once you live like that, everything changes. Not because the world got easier, but because you stopped running from who you are. Because you stopped running from who you are. You started running toward who you were meant to become. That's the shift. That's the moment the path appears. Not outside you, not ahead of you, but within you. The fog doesn't clear because the weather changes. It clears because you changed. You stopped chasing someone else's timeline. You stopped drowning in opinions. You stopped explaining your dream to people too afraid to dream themselves. You stopped performing. And you started building. You started listening. You started honoring. You started trusting that still voice, the one that whispers, "This is the way." And now the path reveals itself, one stone at a time, one disciplined morning at a time, one yes in the face of doubt, one refusal to quit, no matter the weight of the world. This is the life you were born to live, not by chance, not by accident, not by default, but by decision. And every day you choose again. Every day. The world gives you another chance to remember who you are. To remember that greatness was never found in the spotlight. It was forged in the shadows. That confidence is not loud. It is earned in solitude. That peace is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of alignment. You are not here to copy someone else's life. You are not here to fit in with a tribe that doesn't reflect your values. You are not here to be liked. You are here to live aligned. And alignment is a hard path. It will cost you friends. It will make you a stranger to your old self. It will test your faith when the reward is far and the work is near. But it will give you everything. Everything fake falls away. Everything shallow cracks. But the real will rise, because you chose to rise. Not to be perfect, not to be impressive, but to be true, to be clear, to be still enough and brave enough to walk the path only you can walk. So today, decide again. Declare again. Stand up inside your soul again, not with noise, not with drama, but with the kind of sacred stillness that says, "I am ready now," not someday. Not when they understand, not when it's easy, now. Because the mind is still, because the heart is clear, because the excuses have finally grown quiet enough to hear the truth beneath them. And that truth is this: you are not broken. You are becoming. You are not lost. You are shedding. You are not behind. You are in motion. And your path, that sacred, unrepeatable, divinely designed path, is waiting for nothing except your presence, your courage, your yes. So take the next step, not because it's safe, but because it's yours. Not because the world approves, but because your soul already knows. And when you walk with that kind of knowing, the world moves, doors open, the right people appear, the lessons become fuel, the fire becomes your rhythm, and the path becomes your legacy. Let them wonder how, let them doubt when, let them gossip why. You will not explain. You will execute. You will rise in silence. You will lead with stillness. You will move with clarity, and the world will feel your presence, not because you demanded it, but because you became it. The path appears when the mind is still and the heart is clear. Walk it.